With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
This is VSiN PrimeTime. Live from the Circus Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas on VSiN, the sports betting network.
4 hours on the way, and I am fired up because not only do we have the NBA, not only do we have college basketball, we also have baseball and, of course, a little bit of hockey, which I'll keep my eye on the side. Matt Youmans, this is it, the magical time of the year. All of these sports underway. We get to keep track of all of them over the course of the next 4 hours.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the magical time of the year.
Pretty magical.
There's other times of the year probably a little bit more magical than early April. I hope you didn't fall for any April Fool's Day jokes today, did you?
No, I don't think I did. I think I'm safe and sound in not overreacting to Tiger Woods potentially coming back.
Oh, whatever.
Jeanne Broom being back in the full, or should be being done for the rest of the year. Mm-hmm. I think that's pretty much it. And I think the rest of the news I saw today was real and legitimate, like some of the stupid NFL rule changes that I vehemently disagree with.
Yeah, we could talk about some of those a little bit later, but the college basketball crown in action right now. Tim Brando is going to join us in the second hour tonight. He's calling some of the games for FS1 out at the MGM Grand Garden. And Matt Grill, Jeff Sherman, golf, NBA, Wes Reynolds on everything later in the show tonight. And Tim Murray and I had I would say, a pretty enthusiastic show last night as we followed the action in the Arizona State-Nebraska game in the college basketball crown.
I can only assume that is because you guys won your bets.
We did, but it was not easy.
No?
It was not easy. Yeah, so it was very much a roller coaster ride for about 2 hours on the show.
You and Tim are both bastions of positivity, so maybe I should take that back. But
last night we were actually a lot more positive. Trying to be more positive. You ever heard of Zig Ziglar?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we were trying to be more like that last night. Yeah, more positive.
Is he related to Zakai Ziegler?
No, okay. Doesn't look anything like him.
All right, we have plenty on that to front. I did want to hit, we do in a couple of minutes, do have a couple of games getting started in Major League Baseball. No true interest in betting these, but did want to point out, I think the matchup of this early window here, which would, of course, be the Yankees taking on the Diamondbacks, two teams that are considered, I think, to be respective competitors in their leagues, especially the Diamondbacks. Maybe many think a sexy selection to upend the Dodgers. Should they be able to keep up with them? We do get Will Warren versus Corbin Burns. We saw this open up a slight favorite in favor of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Now, $1.24 here at Circa in favor of the D-backs. 8.5 the total, shaded under the Torpedo Bats in action on the other side. No real run to make for me. I will point out that Corbin Burns, obviously the apple of everybody's eye, and I think a big reason why, not only is he on the hill, but Will Warren opposes him, and we don't know much about Warren in any way, shape, or form. 22 2/3 last year, not really great. 10.32 ERA, 4.93 fielding independent. Numbers would indicate that maybe he's a dude to go against, especially with a Diamondbacks offense that could go against pretty much anybody here. So do want to see if Corbin Burns is everything he's cracked up to be. Last year was awesome, Matt, but some of the differential would tell you maybe a little overvalued. 2.92 ERA, 3.55 FIP. Small lean at the price toward the Yankees and the Torpedoes, but we'll see if that plays out that way.
How about over the total of 8.5? If you think the D-backs are going to get to Warren and half of the Yankees lineups using the Torpedo Bats, would you look over 8.5?
I think you could. I do think that the Torpedo Bats are a little blown out of proportion. I know that's like the big thing now.
Aaron Judge is not using one. There's a few guys in the Yankees lineup not using it.
And I mean, I throw out, because obviously the point for all of this goes back to the Saturday start. I was on the air here with Matt Brown during Ready, Set, Bet, and we were watching the first three pitches go out of the park. You know, it could be the Torpedo Bats. It could be that Nestor Cortez stinks.
Well, that's big part of it. Did you watch Game 1 of the World Series when he trotted out of the bullpen?
Sure, Nasty Nestor. Putting a different spin on nasty.
No, it's not so nasty. That's his nickname now. Not so nasty Nestor.
Or you could make the argument it is nasty. It's just a different type of nasty.
Right.
And not one that you want to roll out there
nasty
every 5 days.
He sucks.
Yes. Yeah. So Arizona and New York, I think one of the big ones to watch here. Other ones worth noting, at least in terms of line moves. I don't know if you had anything here. We've seen the total drop in Pittsburgh and Tampa Bay. Harrington versus Baz. Right now, the $1.57 price tag on the Tampa Bay Rays in their new park, 8.5 over -125. And then Washington and Toronto, Jose Barrios versus Williams, and Washington, and I think rightfully so, getting some of the action. We saw this open $1.60 in some spots. We're down to $1.47 in favor of Toronto with a total of 8.5 shaded to the over. If there is a pitcher that I'd be willing to go against pretty frequently, it would be Jose Barrios, a guy who last year at times was getting away with murder if you looked at some of the underlying metrics, and a dude that I do not trust on a consistent basis to keep opposing lineups down to that credit, or to that point, I should say. And we saw him in one start already get absolutely loaded. But last year, 3.60 ERA, 4.72 FIP. You and I talked about it all the time. That differential is something I'm looking for with dude that was not as good as he showed last year. For the basic ERA, I think he's someone worth going against. Market seems to agree. So
you get about first 5, because if you're betting these starting pitchers, they're not going, really nobody's going beyond 6 innings.
No, they are not.
So that's an angle you have to think about betting the first 5. These bullpens are just, it's random what you're going to get from the bullpens a lot of times. Are you betting first 5s?
Yes. So okay. I'll say this, as we're starting to get now into baseball season, obviously, and this thing is started as of Thursday, and we're going to get to the daily grind. One of the things I have very much shifted to is just betting first 5s. First off, I'll say this. Look, I'm a millennial. I'm lazy. It cuts your work. I don't have to track bullpen usage that much or anything like that. It really boils it down to the starting pitchers, how they've been performing. You and I both know we've done shows for a long time now. You like the buy low, sell high that we used to do. A lot of that tied into the starting pitching. Why bring in the variance of whatever the hell is going to come out of that pen later in the game? You don't know what situation they're going to be in. You don't know who's coming out, all those sort of things. When I can just boil this down to mano a mano, starting pitcher versus starting pitcher, lineup versus that guy, and that's it. And to me, I have actually gravitated toward basically betting just first 5s on a day-to-day basis.
I think it's good. You got to condition yourself to do that, because a lot of people have been betting 9-inning lines basically their whole lives. It's hard to break that routine and do something different. But especially early in the season when pitchers almost never go deep into games, if you're betting on the pitcher angle, you have to bet the first 5. And, even if you're tracking usage rates for bullpens, you still have a lot of random outcomes with when bullpens get involved. So that's not foolproof to do all the research on the bullpens. I'm interested, I think, most tonight to see if Michael King can give the Padres a great 5 innings at Petco tonight. King -165. Padres off to a 5-0 start.
Yep.
And catching the Guardians at Petco, and also the Cubs against Luis Severino and the Sacramento A's, who got bombed in their new park last night.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought these two up. So first off, for King, the great start for the Padres, despite King getting a start for them, 2 2/3 last time out.
Yeah.
Got rocked and was not the same guy. Walk rate was way up, despite the fact that he had at least a decent strike rate in a small sample size of data. And we know that I think King can be better than that. So I'm very interested.
You're going to get a lot of guys like that who are not quite ready in the first start.
Yep. So you don't want to overreact to that. And obviously, market's not doing that because the Padres are a $1.68 favorite. The other is, I'm glad you brought up the Sacramento A's, because we're all freaking out about the torpedo bats. And then after one game, we're all freaking out about the minor league park for the Sacramento A's.
I like the park. Somebody needs to give the A's the torpedo bats.
I think so. Or take away the bats from the opposing team so they don't get rocked as much. But the reason I bring that up is you do wonder if it was, again, it's just one game. Was that because of the park? A lot of people making the case that maybe this could be an over park. Or maybe the pitching was just awful for Oakland yesterday.
The A's scored 3 runs, so
I would agree.
That would indicate that it's more about the A's pitching stinking, or A's offense stinking, than it is an over park, right?
I would completely agree. And the other side, Luis Severino. So the only bet I've had, or the bets that I've been making here, and I think I brought this up to you, we've talked about this a couple of times, is going on these opposing pitchers against the Mariners and their strikeout props, going over them, right? Because this Mariners team is awful. Severino gets his first start against the Mariners on the road in Seattle. What does he do? He goes out there, strikes out 6 over the course of 6 really strong frames. And you're thinking, all right, cool. Things are going to get better. Severino might be a pretty good diamond in the rough that they picked up, the Oakland Athletics. If you're into advanced analytics, you would very much not jump on Severino here today, despite the fact that he shut out the Mariners over that stretch. Expected ERA 5.31, a little bit of hard contact allowed in that start, so maybe some warning signs for Severino. Let's sit back and wait. To me, it was a play on Severino because of the lineup he faced. I want to see if he can do it here against the Chicago Cubs, so very much worth watching later tonight.
Yeah, I'm not a big believer in Luis Severino in the long-term greatness.
He had a good year last year, 182
okay.
thirds. What do you mean? He had 391 over 182 innings.
391 what?
ERA.
You pay attention to the ERA?
Yeah, what I'm talking about. Expected ERA.
Statistic.
Expected ERA 388. He's actually had a pretty good year for Severino.
He was okay. I don't believe in Severino over the long haul.
Yeah, I don't think he's an ace. I just thought he gave you pretty good stuff for 182 innings for Severino. I'm not right.
He was solid last year.
See,
I'm not going to say he was
yeah.
really good. I just think he was solid. He's a pitcher I look to bet against more often than I do bet on. Let's put it that way.
We'll see if the Cubs can get to him, too, a little bit later. That's it for baseball. I wanted to bring up something else. We'll have to save this for the other side. Should also note a couple of other starts a little bit later today. For example, the market getting in on the under in Hendricks and Liberatore. That is the Angels and the Cardinals. You mock the Halos, and yet they go out there despite pitching a position player on opening day, and they win the series against Chicago White Sox.
Angels right now in first place in American League West, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
I think it can. I think
they're pretty much going to go wire to wire.
VSiN.com/subscribe, $9.99. Have you heard about this deal?
Now, is this something new?
No, this is great. So if you sign up now for less than $10, you can get everything we have up on the website. The expert analysis, the betting systems. Now that we're into baseball season, that includes Adam Burke's daily write-ups. We have so much content up there. Very much worth it if you haven't tried it already. If you're listening to my voice, check it out one time. VSiN.com/subscribe. Less than $10 gets everything up on the site, and you can see what is very much worth your time, including the betting splits, the player prop analyzer, and more. VSiN.com/subscribe. Introductory offer will get you started. I did throw in a bet. We got to have a show sweat. So Williams and the Nationals, little plus 140. Let's go. Money line against Jose Barrios and the Toronto Blue Jays.
All right, no baseball for me tonight, but I do have a bet in the college basketball crown tournament for the second night in a row.
I am very much looking forward to your analysis on this. Guess how much analysis I've done on that tournament?
I'm going to say little to none.
Little to none. You want to know why? Because I got a bigger fish to fry.
Is it in the
Paul Stone, I'm coming for you, buddy. I told you that I wasn't going to back down. And here we are. We'll get to the Circuit College Hoops Challenge as well. And coming up in 15 minutes, Matt Grill from DraftKings.
This is VSiN PrimeTime on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Matt does not think it's a magical time of year, and that's fine, but it's a fun time of year because we have a lot going on. We went through that. We broke down baseball the whole time. So I'm excited about that. Very much love baseball and the day-to-day grind. But we should not forget that we actually have a full NBA card today as well.
Now it is magical. Now that you say that.
That's right. And, some would say the baseball season is a grind, but there's nothing like Grind City, which is where our game of the night resides.
The lights are on and the stakes are high. It's the primetime game of the night.
Not so much Grind City lately for the Memphis Grizzlies, who come in a little bit of a tailspin, Matt. And all of a sudden, don't look now, but new life for those of you like me who have some sort of stake on an under for the win total for the Memphis Grizzlies. They have lost 3 straight. They have failed to cover those 3, but even more so. How about this? For the last 22 games, you know how many games they have covered over the last 22 of the Memphis Grizzlies?
Let's say 4.
3, 18-1 ATS. It has been abysmal for this team. Now, Warriors have kind of fallen by the wayside. Power rating really jumped up, 3.72 ATS over their last 12. But either way, very important game tonight as Golden State continues to try to solidify their spot in the top 6. And the Grizzlies try to stop themselves from, dare we say, sliding out.
It's kind of like a free fall. Grizzlies 3-7 in the last 10 games. And this playoff race for seeds in the Western Conference is even more fascinating than the Southeast Division race, in my opinion. Right now,
Some would not agree with you.
The Grizzlies 44-31. The Warriors a half game back of the Grizzlies, and the Warriors actually only a half game ahead of the T-Wolves and the Clippers. When you look at 5, 6, 7, 8, JBT, it's a tight race with those 4 teams right there. So my Warriors need to keep winning, and the Grizzlies have not been beating winning teams. This comes from Sean Grandy, the Celtics play-by-play guy. Grizzlies have not defeated a winning team since February 2nd. So the last 8 weeks, Grizzlies 11-4 versus losing teams, 0-11 versus winning teams. And guess what? They're facing a winning team tonight in the Warriors. This number opened 2.5 in a couple spots, mostly 3, is up to Golden State -4 in Memphis. So the Grizzlies are going to have to do something they have not done, JBT, in almost 2 months. That's defeat a team with a winning record.
Yep, and we can make this. We can make the number sound even worse for Memphis. So far this season, against teams with a top 10 net rating, they are 6-18 straight up. They are 18th in offensive efficiency, averaging just 110.4 points per game. And on top of all of that, Matt, today, the brutal spot. Second leg of a back-to-back, third game in 4 nights. We're out against Boston yesterday, got smacked around near the end of that contest, failed to cover there, and now they have to take on a Warriors team that will give them everything they have. And this is still, I think, a low-key rivalry spot. I mean, we have seen these games get pretty testy. Dillon Brooks isn't there anymore, but these are 2 teams that have a lot of minutes played against one another. Numbers up to 4 with a total of 239. Hard to disagree with the market. Injury report for you, as we will keep an eye on it. Not a lot of names here. Jonathan Kuminga, Gary Payton, not going to play for Golden State. Everybody else will be available. Brandon Clark, as you know, out. John Conchar is questionable. So mostly all hands on deck for both teams. Yeah. Real question is, under the new interim and with a change in offense, we're going to start to see this team turn it around. I'd venture a guess and say probably not. Market has this right. We're looking for a cheap in-game opportunity on Golden State once the game begins.
Yeah, Doug Kazarian was here in the book last night. Doug really, really liked the Celtics over the Grizzlies. Yeah. And spitting
was
mad.
He calmly rooting for them?
He was, more or less. Spitting mad Chris Massaro was a little bit more emotional. He had a big bet on the Celtics last night. I think both those guys are actually on the Warriors tonight in Memphis. I know Doug is, let's put it that way. Like you said, number I had seen on the Grizzlies, 3-17-1 against the spread in their last 21.
Sure.
That's the worst mark in the league.
Yeah. So, depending on what you look at, they have 3 covers over their last, 22-odd games. So, this is exactly where this team is at. And fallout continues from the firing of Taylor Jenkins. There was a big story on it today. Sounds like Jenkins was undercut pretty hard with the hirings on the staff. And now this Memphis team is going to try to move on. And we'll see if they can do that heading into the postseason. All right, we'll get more on the association. We do have a couple more tips set for this hour. Philadelphia and New York, big spread. We don't have to spend a lot of time here. New York, a 13-point favorite. Totals 219 or 219.5, depending on where you look. Big drop on the overnight. Actually opened up 223.5. Of course, New York trying to solidify their spot, and it seems very much will so in terms of the top 3 in the Eastern Conference. And I know you don't care, but we'll say Atlanta. They're holding on to a precarious 1-game lead in the Southeast Division, but the Hawks have been a very good bet on team, 8-4 ATS in their last 12 games, taking on the Portland Trailblazers, who have lost 4 straight and failed to cover those 4 games. 2 teams on an overrun as well. Hawks 6-0-1 to the over in their last 7, 4-1 to the over in the last 5 for the Portland Trailblazers, if you like those sort of things. But Hawks get a little market respect finally. They are now about a 5.5-point favorite, 6-point favorite. Portland get a little bit of support in the market, but still would say about a month ago, Atlanta wouldn't be laying this number to Portland. So we've seen a clear market upgrade on the Hawks.
I mean, a month ago, a lot of people thought the Chicago Bulls were dead. Buried, correct. Right? And the Bulls 15-5 against the spread in their last 24-point home favorites over Toronto tonight.
That's a big win total game. Let me tell you, buddy. I need Toronto. Need Toronto like blood. And the Raptors, they've won 4 straight. They're only 2 wins away from getting over that over. It looked like it was going to be dead. And now he got a little bit of life. But I will not repeat the phrase that Tim Murray loves and coined, but I will say I do have hope. All right, we'll get back to the NBA, but I did want to play this for you because obviously the question as we move ahead to the Final Four is the status of John Broome. We saw him fall awkwardly in that win over Michigan State. Looked like he hyperextended the elbow, whatever it was. Did not look great. Did come back.
Wait a minute. I got breaking news here from Dick Vitale. Can I read it first?
Okay, yes, of course. I assume this is fully accurate.
Dick Vitale says, hold on.
I thought you had this ready.
I did. What happened to it? Maybe he deleted it.
Oh, you think he deleted it?
I think he deleted it.
Why would he delete wholly accurate information?
Because he got fooled and looked like a buffoon and deleted the tweet. Dick Vitale got fooled on today, tweeting out that tough break for Johnny Broome and the Auburn Tigers. their star is injured and cannot play in the Final Four. And then about an hour later, he tweeted, "They got me. April Fool's joke."
I fell for it.
Yep, fell for it.
Well, let's hear an accurate report. This was media earlier today. We had Bruce Pearl talking about the status of one Jeanne Broom. Let's hear it.
Well, you know what? The team took Monday off, and we're going to go Tuesday and Wednesday without him. He needs to let that elbow rest. Fortunately, he's got no injury, but he did put some stress on the joint, and we'll get him back going again, hopefully on Thursday when we practice at the Alamo Dome.
All right, hopefully back to practice on Thursday. He said did a little bit of damage there to the joint at least, but not injured is the key term. Don't think there's any question that Jeanne Broom will be available this weekend. Question is, how healthy will he be after snagging a one-armed rebound and hitting a three late in that game when he came back from injury?
I'd say he's probably going to be 90%, could be close to it.
It's the non-shooting arm, too, which is a positive thing for him.
He came back and knocked down a three, and he's got a couple of days to rest, and I think he'll probably be close to just fine by the time that game is played on Saturday. It's not really going to play into my handicap of the game at all. How about you?
No, I will just sit back and hope and pray that they can win this game.
I mean, if you're watching it and it looks like Broom is compromised, he's not at full speed, that's something you could do with live betting. But right now, I think you pretty much have to assume he's going to be fine.
Do you think we get to 3?
Yeah, I think the 3 will show up. I hear so much Florida support out there.
I'm with you.
That I think it's going to go to 3.
Sure, you're right. You corrected me earlier. I shouldn't say everybody's on Florida.
Never everybody.
But a vast majority.
Say almost everybody.
It seems that's the case.
I feel the same way about the Duke-Houston game.
Oh, like a
almost
vast
everybody's
majority?
on Duke.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that number might get to 6.
Mm-hmm.
Probably get to 6 in some books. Yeah.
Right now, 5 in favor of Duke with a total of 136 or 136.5. That Auburn-Florida game, this is 2.5 with a total of 160.5. We should also note, though, that a lot of shops have that 2.5 juiced. So you're talking about maybe on the verge of going to 3 at some point by the time we get to tip-off.
I think as soon as it gets 3, you're going to get sharp money on Auburn plus 3.
Who do you think Paul Stone's on?
Oh, boy. I don't know, but you better figure that out before
I texted Mitch yesterday. I don't know if you heard him when we walked in. I said, hey, you got Paul Stone on sometime this week? And he's like, why should we not? And I go, just asking.
Right.
Yeah, just want to hear. Paul's great. I want to hear his info. Want to hear his analysis. No other reason. You got
to go oppo of Paul Stone.
I mean, that's really what it is. The contest-wise.
You do have 2 best bets left, so you got a couple extra, I guess an extra point in play. So it gives you a little bit better chance to catch him if he happens to lose both best bets and you win both.
But still a long shot if I can go ahead and catch him. We will see if that's the case. But, hey, at least you got a shot, and that's all that matters. All right, new users over at First Bet checking out now get $200 as a sign-up bonus when you go over there. You can check it out. First Bet, #1stbet.com. Use promo code VSiN200. And you can sign up now and get a $200 sign-up bonus if you're a new user. So check out the ponies. It's a great time to do it. FirstBet.com, promo code VSiN200. Sign up now. Get a $200 sign-up bonus. We are tracking everything in Major League Baseball. Score list through 2 frames. Both of the matchups we are watching. Got a best bet here on the Washington Nationals versus Jose Barrios. And we have plenty of NBA. But on the other side, one Matt Grill from DraftKings.
This is VSiN PrimeTime on VSiN, the sports betting network.
All right, we're fired up, man. There's just so much going on. I'm like a kid in a candy store. I'm very distracted. But this next guest will bring me back down to earth. We got to talk about some serious stuff. Matt Grill over at DraftKings. Nice enough to give us some time here today. Matt, we appreciate it as always. Let's start at the beginning, or at least the Elite 8. So over the weekend, we see the 4 number 1 seeds prevail. 3 of them cover. Chalk City, as many would say. So all the way through these first few rounds, how has the tournament treated you as we enter the Final Four?
Yeah, JVT, you said it. And I think, guys, we touched on this last week and even 2 weeks ago, saying, if there was ever going to be a tournament for the first time since 2008 to have the 4 number 1 seeds advance to the Final Four, this was it. Just, these are the four dominant teams all year long. They're historically good in the Ken Palm ratings and really any metrics ratings that you look at. So it's been a chalky tournament, and it's been especially chalky toward the top. And, some people might not like that, but, I personally, I do, just because, A, I've got a, Auburn future in my back pocket. And B, I want to see the best team crowned, and, we're going to see it now. Florida, obviously very fortunate to get past Texas Tech, just that sequence of the Florida making 4 straight threes and Texas Tech missing the 2 of the front ends of a 1-on-1, just, very disappointing. That was actually a really big swing for us, just because, a team like Florida winning, everyone had kind of latched on to betting these money line favorites, especially in the parlays. So, yeah, those definitely hurt us this tournament with those coming through. That and throwing the women's, the women's has been all chalk too, except for Notre Dame getting knocked off by TCU. So just you've got a really chalky couple brackets here. And, I think we mentioned this a couple weeks prior as well, that it's probably going to be like this going forward with any mid-major talents just going to get sucked out of those programs due to NIL and the portal into these bigger programs. So I think you can expect more of this in coming years. And, as to the book, some of we're just going to have to adjust toward in the years to come.
All right, you mentioned you have an Auburn future. JBT does as well. I've got Florida and Duke futures. And does anyone have Houston?
I have 12-1.
You got 12-1 in Houston? All right. So how do you look at these games on Saturday, Matt Grill? You have Duke right now, 5-point favorite. DraftKings showing a 5.5 at -105. Will that number get to 6? And how about Florida Auburn? Gators laying 2.5, -115. That looks like it's headed to 3. Is that right?
Yeah, guys, I know that Janiah Broom, looking at it, he's being held out of practice today and tomorrow. I think he's going to give it a go on Saturday. He'll have 6 days to heal up from that kind of nasty fall he took on Sunday. And of course, he came back into the game. If you guys noticed, he was really favoring that right arm. Wasn't really raising it, was holding it close to his arm. Made some pretty valiant 3-pointers and some free throws after that, but he didn't really play the last couple minutes of that game when it got close. So going to keep an eye on him. I was a little bit surprised after we put this up at 2.5. I kind of expected that we'd get some Florida money, and that has been the case, but it really wasn't the onslaught like I thought we'd get, especially with that injury being monitored. So, that one, I think, with Auburn at full strength, I think they're playing a little bit better these last couple of games after that kind of late season skid. So I think this is going to be a really tight game. Could go either way. Kind of expect Florida to eke it out. Just they've been a little bit more consistent, I think. And then, the other game, Duke-Houston. This one's just, I think, super interesting, just with a super efficient Duke offense versus the number 1 Houston defense. So really just can't wait for that game, guys. And Houston just holding Tennessee to 50 points that last game. They're a really hard team to play. They got some grown men that are playing these Duke kind of younger guys. So I think Houston is very live this game. And, if they were to win that, I think they'd probably end up being the favorite in the final against either of Auburn or Florida. So very interesting game there. I think Houston's live. Duke, Cooper Flag, if they can shut them down a bit, they got other weapons, but just super intriguing game there in the Final Four.
Real quick, liability-wise, these 4-1 seeds, where do you guys stand?
Yeah, we're losers on Duke, guys. We're sitting pretty on the other 3, especially Auburn and Houston. So again, we're rooting in Auburn and Houston the most. Florida, winner on them now. Kind of wasn't the case with the tournament. We've been just taking so much money on Duke, even at this even money +110, +105 price. You wouldn't believe it. I think people just think this is a foregone conclusion. Duke is going to win, but again, these 3 other teams, they're historically good. So this really could go any way, I think. But you just can't wait for these games Saturday and Monday.
You know what we can't wait for? The college basketball crown tonight. Colorado, Villanova with Nova 5-point favorite, and Tulane, USC, Trojans laying 8. 2 games at MGM Grand Garden Arena. And Matt Grohl of DraftKings with us. Matt, we had Johnny Avello on the show last night. There was a lot of confusion across the country on why the college basketball crown games were taken off the board outside of Nevada. Can you explain that? And Johnny also sent me a text today, said that at least 5 more states, DraftKings got those approved today, right?
Yeah, guys, it's definitely been something, just kind of in motion here hour by hour. So got some clarity on it last night and this morning. So it's back up in a lot of jurisdictions today. So obviously, if you're betting with us, just check your local jurisdictions. If it's allowed, or if you see it up on our site, it's going to be allowed again. And then, also got to remember the different jurisdictions grade these differently. So yesterday after this happened, some states, gaming commission is going to come back to us and tell us it's a void. Some are going to say it's action. So, it's really just going to be in a state by state, jurisdiction by jurisdiction, kind of situation. So again, we're doing our best. We're always going to follow the gaming compliance, and the jurisdictional direction best we can. So we're kind of at the mercy with what they tell us to do in this type of stuff. I think it's just kind of another one of those things. It's a little bit of a growing pains with the new sports betting landscape, and definitely in some of these new states. So I just think kind of a miscommunication with what this event really was between the regulators, the compliance, and all that. So again, there's lots of tournaments throughout the course of the year. The CBI, the CIT preseason tournaments. So these are cropping up more and more. So it's just something that I think that the regulators and the compliance is going to be on top of what you can put up, what you can't. But again, I think this is just more of a miscommunication, and it's back up in a lot more states today. So again, we should have this available for the rest of the games in those states that have reapproved it.
You know how it goes, JVT. Russian table tennis? Okay.
Yep.
College basketball crown? Oh, not so fast. But
got to watch it on that website that runs on Windows 95 still, but we're good.
I thought those games should have been up at every state, and I can't believe there was that much confusion about it yesterday anyway.
The ping pong games?
Yeah. Russian table tennis.
You're all in on that. All right. Rook, did we the breakdown for tonight, anything stick out in the two games betting pattern-wise?
Guys, I think it hasn't been too busy on these games. I think people just kind of taking a break from the tournament. And, we got really good action on the women's games as well yesterday. But, of course, the diehards are always going to be betting these. So it's just kind of this in baseball. So I've got a good one right here at the end with Oregon State and UCF. And then, two more games tonight with Nova, Colorado, and Tulane, USC. Of course, the Willard saga from going from Maryland up to Nova. He was seen at the stands last night. So, going to be checking out his new team, and just now we got the coaching carousel with Buzz Williams going from A&M to Maryland there. So just on the hot silver of the offseason already in full swing, right?
Hey, let's talk some golf. We got the Texas Open this week, the final tune-up for the Masters Grill. We're going to be talking about some real important stuff a week from now when we go to Augusta. So how does the final tune-up shape up to you? Anything you like this week? And did you hit Minwoo Lee as a long shot last week?
Matt, I feel like I was like the only one on the golf betting planet that didn't have Minwoo. And again, it's like one of the toughest things we were doing this is, you got to kind of find a balance of who can actually win, finding good numbers, and then, those last couple first scratch-offs of who you don't pick. And I sent it to my golf team right after. I said, I couldn't really stomach Minwoo or Rise number, both at 35. And I said, sarcastically, congrats to them. And then they go on to win just to torment me. So, but we move on to this week, the Texas Open. And, like you said, final tune-up for the Masters. Some guys in the tournament trying to win to get in. Other guys like Ludwig Olbear, Tommy Fleetwood, Patrick Cantlay, Jordan Spieth with a tune-up here. So Jordan Spieth, I think, with his improved play this year, he's still erratic as ever, but he has won here. His approach play is much improved this year. If you can grab him over 25, he's a pretty good name to start your card. Hasn't won in a couple of years, but you're going to be really interested to see what he can do next week and how he plays this week leading into the Masters next week. He actually got the lowest career scoring average at the Masters, I think, for guys who played over 40 rounds. So there's something to keep an eye on his play. But some other guys to keep an eye on this week, Matt, Sam Burns, I think, has kind of got lost in the shuffle. He's like 45, 50 to 1 this week. He normally wouldn't be that long of a number. So I'm kind of leaning toward him a bit. Maverick McNeil, he's been pretty consistent this year again. So he's up around in that 40 to 50 range. I like him as well. Then another forgotten guy who inexplicably the other week, Tom Kim was like down to like 22 or 25 to 1. Didn't do well, and now you kind of get a discount on him this week. So I'd be looking at Tom Kim this week. He's drifted a bit. So again, I think it's gonna be a light card for me. Going to be kind of thinking more about next week. Actually, Matt added Cam Smith to my card for the Masters. We can talk more about that next week. But just going to kind of take it light this week and just keep an eye on what these guys are doing lead up into the Masters.
Matt, we appreciate a couple minutes as always. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, guys.
Got it. Matt Grill. I was about to say Matt LaFleur because I was reading our audio sheet. Matt Grill over at DraftKings. Maybe we'll hear from Matt LaFleur.
Wes Reynolds' golf column is up at VSiN.com. I'll mention a couple of the players that Wes likes in the tournament this week. There's a lot of guys who follow Wes Reynolds' golf columns and bet his futures each week, and it's funny because he's got a common player with me this week. A long shot, triple-digit long shot. I'll mention that next.
That, or you can also come around at about 6 p.m. Pacific time, because he'll be with us later today, too. Go to VSiN.com, check it out. We have. When we come back, we have our game of the night getting started.
This is VSiN PrimeTime on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Corbin Carroll goes yard. It's a 2-run shot for the D-backs. They are up 2-0 over the. Do we call them the Bronx Bombers still? Can we call them like the Torpedoes?
I guess you can call them that this week. Yeah,
something like that. Either way, Diamondbacks up. Market was all over the D-backs, pushing them up to north of $1.20 favorite. So far, it would seem that the market is at least on to something as they take the early lead with the 2-run shot, courtesy of Carroll. We are a couple of minutes away from the start of our game of the night between the Golden State Warriors and the Memphis Grizzlies. I believe this one's going to get started at the... it doesn't get started at the top of the hour, actually. So we have some time. 3 games that are underway right now. I should note, too, that Milwaukee Phoenix did get started. Phoenix, of course, having lost 3 straight games and failed to cover those 3, desperately trying to get back into the Western Conference play-in mix. Currently trail 18-8 in the early going of that one. All right. Anything before we move on? I wanted to get you wanted to regale the audience with the Wes Reynolds selections.
Well, I actually recommended a player to Big Randy McKay today. He loves Tom Hoagie because he's got North Dakota connections. And I was looking through some statistical stuff last night. We had a guest on the show, John Hasselbauer. You can follow John at PGA Tout on Twitter. He's hit winners in the last 2 tournaments. He's been, I think, 4 futures winners in 2025. He's right there with Wes Reynolds as the hottest golf handicappers. I know he likes Hoagie. It makes a lot of sense. And that's a guy who played his college golf at TCU, 2 top 12 finishes and 5 career appearances here in San Antonio. And it was a player I looked at last night and said, you know what, that's a long shot I think it's worth playing. 100 to 1's the best number out there, 90 to 1 here at Circa. So Tom Hoagie, if you're looking for a long shot where some long shots have won, I think that's a guy that fits the profile this week. I'm not really crazy about betting Jordan Spieth in this tournament, but I do have Jordan Spieth. I know Matt Groh mentioned him. I do have Spieth at the Masters at 37 to 1. And if you're looking for a guy who's got great course history at Augusta, he's won. So we'll be talking about Augusta next week. But Tom Hoagie, 100 to 1 shot this week. Wes Reynolds has got him in his golf column, and that's the only common player I've got with Wes this week. But we have Wes coming up. What you saying about
about an hour and a half, or a little less than that. Wes is going to be actually no, excuse me, just under 2 hours. Sorry, I thought it was 6 o'clock. It is 6:30 p.m. Pacific time, 9:30 Eastern for those of you in faraway places. Where when Wes will join us and we'll get his thoughts on the Houston Open coming up this weekend.
Feel like taking a shot with a long shot there, and don't want to play one of the favorites. Tommy Fleetwood. Remember the last time he was a favorite in the golf tournament? We talked about him a few weeks ago.
Tommy, PGA Tourless or PGA Tourless winner, whatever, however phrase it. Guy hasn't won a PGA Tour.
Never won on the PGA Tour. Remember he was a favorite a couple weeks ago?
Remember.
Never in contention.
No?
As the favorite that week.
Torpedo bat strike again.
How
Corbin
about
Burns
this?
gives up a solo shot. Dominguez goes yard, 2-1. We got 2 homers in the Bronx already.
D-backs up 2-1, bottom of the third, no outs, and 8.5 was the total in that game tonight. I had to wonder. I asked Jensen Lewis about that this morning on VSiN by the Book show with Super Dave Ross. Is it going to be an overreaction, or do we really need to bump the totals up in some of these baseball games across the board because of the torpedo bats? Ellie De La Cruz of the Reds used a torpedo bat for the first time yesterday.
Hit 2 homers.
2 homers and 7 RBIs.
Yeah.
Is this going to be an overreaction, or is this something that's real?
I mean, I think so. I don't even think Dominguez uses the torpedo bat. And it's not like the Yankees have just rolled out. Everybody here, take one. This is your new bat now.
Right.
So I think it's a slight overreaction. And I know that betting Twitter was all a tizzy because DraftKings had offered now homer props on the confirmed users of the torpedo bats. It was just like all put together one column. I don't think that the odds were shaped in any way, shape, or form. It was just a popular thing to jump on trend-wise. Oh. But here we go. We got some more offense, as I believe Rice is going to reach on a double. So
torpedoed that into the gap.
Some would say. I don't think it's a big deal, though. Maybe I'm wrong.
A lot of people make it a big deal out of it, but you know how overreactions go.
There was one. So I was reading an article from CBS today that talked to a league executive that this league executive thought that they were going to ban them at some point, them being the torpedo bats, not the Yankees as a whole, as much as all of us would hope that is the case.
Bryson Stott of the Phillies said that the torpedo bats look like they're legal.
They are by the rule.
Every other team picking them up now.
By the measure of the law, like the letter of the law, I should say, the measurements check out, and they are legal bets. So I don't think you should get rid of them. Again, I don't think it's that big of a deal. The one argument against it that I actually thought made, I guess, some sense would be that with the torpedo bats, with the way that they're constructed, players can now crowd the plate a little bit more because if you get jammed, it's actually a higher probability of getting a hit the way that the bats are built. And on top of that, with torpedo bats, you steer even more into the 3 true outcome approach on offense.
Right.
And that would not be appealing to the audience. And I was like, all right, I can hear that as long as the argument is not, it gives you an unfair advantage. If those are the arguments against it, it's like, all right, makes sense. I still don't think you should ban them, but it at least makes sense. More sense in that regard. All right. With that, we did have some news today. Like I said, it's a crazy time in the National Football League with some rule changes. I wanted to get your thoughts on some of them. We're going to hear from Matt LaFleur on the tush push. We can get this ready as well. This was not ruled on. This was actually pushed back to the next meeting in May. So we will hear on what is going on from the league's perspective. But this was Matt LaFleur on this. We've heard a lot of arguments against the tush push. LaFleur had his own thoughts. Take a listen.
Your team's proposal about the tush push, the rules proposal?
Well, just when you look at the play, I would say I don't think it's a great football play. It's more of a rugby play. And then some of the injury concerns, we just want to kind of get out in front of that, and be a little bit more proactive than that.
And even though you guys ran it a few times, like with the tight end, you still feel that way?
Yeah, we do it too. I mean, but we're going to adjust, to whatever the rules may be, and if it doesn't go through, it doesn't go through. But we're always constantly trying to look at everything. I think when you look at player safety, I think that's at the forefront of it should be at the forefront of everybody's mind in this league.
Were you involved in the actual writing of it and the drafting of that proposal?
No, we got people that can do that are a lot smarter than I am.
Tush push ban, the vote was 16 NFL teams in favor. For those who don't remember, you need 24. So you can pass something. So that means 8 guys got to flip by the time we get to their next meeting in May. So that has been tabled for now. But LaFleur and the Packers are the forefront of this potential ban. You happy? You sad? You think this should get banned? It's a rugby play, Matt.
I don't think it should get banned. I don't. Just find ways to stop it. And if you can't stop it, then do it yourself. I thought Warren Sharp had a great tweet about this today. Did you happen to see that? Yeah. Warren Sharp says the move to ban the tush push was actually started with Mark Murphy in the Green Bay front office. And he said it was, quote, too automatic of a first down on plays of a yard or less. He never mentioned anything about player safety, which I think is a joke anyway. They even mentioned player safety in that. Mm-hmm. Is that a safety issue? No. It's just I think teams are upset that the Eagles have an advantage on that play. So Warren Sharp went back and looked at the Packers the last 3 years on 4th and 1. The Packers converted regular quarterback sneaks on 4th and 1 on 80% of their tries, but they ranked 30th in 4th and 1 conversion rate at only 55%. Why? Because Matt LaFleur called quarterback sneaks on just 16% of the plays on 4th and 1 or less. He called more running back runs or pass plays, and that's why the Packers were so ineffective on 4th and 1 or less.
Sure.
If you can't stop it, if you think nobody can stop it, why not adopt it yourself?
I mean,
I don't think it should be banned.
People are trying, but it hasn't been replicated very well.
You know why it works for the Eagles? Sure. You know why it works, right?
Is it because Jalen Hurts squats like 500 pounds?
Well, first of all, they got one of the best, if not the best, offensive line in the NFL.
Very true.
Right? They practice it to perfection. And guess what, JVT? They have a quarterback who squats like 700 pounds.
600 pounds, according to ESPN, I guess. The number flies around all the time. Maybe it's up to 600 or up to 700. Who knows? VSiN.com/subscribe. Check it out now, $9.99. You can get in on the action and check out the exclusive betting splits data. For your first month, less than $10. Circa, DraftKings, accurate betting splits data up on the site, and many more things. Go to VSiN.com/subscribe and get started now. I will also say that I dislike the overtime rule change.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about that one either.
Because here's the thing that bothers me. People keep, you know me, I've said this 1,000 times. I don't like disingenuous arguments. You keep hearing, I don't want my games decided by a coin toss. I actually went back and looked. Since 2021, so include the 2021 season, Matt, we've had 65 overtime games. Do you know how many were decided on the first drive?
I'm going to say 25.
14.
That's it?
That's it.
That's a low number.
That's a low number. And what irritates me even more is Florio threw out in his article, teams that won the coin toss were 12-4 last year. Then you dig a little bit deeper, only 6 of those games ended on the first drive. Just so happens that the team that won the coin toss got the ball back. Come on now.
You think it's a player safety issue?
Might be. Yeah, maybe.
I don't think so.
That rings hollow, too. You know what's a player safety issue? Football in general.
I got a play on the college basketball crown that starts next hour. We'll talk about that next hour.
Along with Jeff Sherman, who's going to join us on the other side, get his thoughts on the association card later tonight. The big picture as we inch closer to the postseason.